Okay.
Welcome back. This is Mary Esther Judy from Fallen Stars Stories, and she's here with us again for the third part in this series. So this is Irish Reads Week, and today, the 25th, Thursday, the 25th of February 2021, is Irish Reads a Day. And this is the final day of our three-part series. And today we're talking about books for teenagers, young adults, and thank you again, Mary, for joining us for this.
No problem. No problem.
So
what have we got today? Well, I'm going to start out, because your Tribes Press, of course, I'm going to start out with the Tribes Press book. This is Kieran Ryan's Union of Worlds Deception. Can we see that?
Yeah.
See his name. And it's sort of teen into young adult book. Although it can be read, there's some 10-year-olds that have read it and really enjoyed it. And it is what I would call good, straightforward science fiction.
Okay.
And that can be problematic for a lot of people. It's to be honest, it's difficult to sell science fiction. People you're either into it or you're not. And so it's kind of a select audience. But I would encourage people to read this because, first of all, it's a cracking adventure. It's quite full on and in your face and a lot of action. And it talks about a planet Kraid, which is held in the Union of Worlds, but there is a rebellion afoot. And it starts out right at the moment when that kicks off. Great action, great adventure. There are two orphans that are the heroes of the book, Darrow and Lizzie, and they find themselves caught up in this rebellion, and which turns out to be a galactic kind of conflict. And in the end, they end up being the heroes. And I can't say too much more about it because it'll give away the real twist in the plot, that when you discover it is one of those gasp moments. It's a great read. It's about friendship. It's about loyalty. It's about keeping your head when everything is going crazy around you, which I think is something we can all kind of relate to now.
Yeah, and I suppose all of these books in this three-part series have all been about how can we support, what are the books that support mental health, and what are the books that help us through reduce our anxiety, whatever it is. And this book is another one of those books.
And help you. There's a real resilience in the characters in this book. They have to think on their feet and move very quickly.
Yeah.
And come up with a plan. They don't know whether it's going to work or not, but they just do it. They go for it anyway. And they find that they have to sort of twist things very quickly in order to make it work for them. And it does have that sort of supporting resilience, giving new ideas. The thing about science fiction is like fantasy in that it's actually real life in another person's clothes, basically.
Yeah.
And there's a lot in this book and that will help with that, but it's also just a cracking great read.
Great.
And I think it's, pick it up. Even if you're not into science fiction, you may find a new genre that you like that will open up all kinds of different worlds for you. So that is The Union of Worlds Deception by Kieran Ryan.
Perfect. And that's available at tribespress.com/shop for your local publisher if you want to help support your local industry.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And as we're talking about mental health, people's lives, and we move into those teen years, one of the things that you find, and everybody finds this, is it can be quite a challenge to keep them reading. Yeah. You've got that 8 to 12 age range. Kids read during the 8 to 12 age range. You can get them to read. They're very excited about it. They get into secondary school, and there you will find that inevitably the reading for pleasure drops off. They've got so much in their heads. They've got so much going on. But that's actually the time when they need it the most, because they're developing that sense of, who am I in the world? And to give them good books, not just fact books, but give them fiction, because fiction helps them broaden their perspective, develop empathy for other people who may not be living the same lives that they're living, and help them develop a pattern of what they want in their life, where they're going in their world.
I
And
actually,
it is a real time.
yeah,
Go ahead.
I met a teenage boy once, and I sat down. I was talking to him, and he was really lost. You know, he was really lost, and he was quite depressed. And school wasn't all it was cracked. Secondary school wasn't all it was cracked up to be, and he thought it'd be different and things like that. And it can be quite difficult in secondary school because you're trying to find your place there. And if you're not on a sports team or a debating team or some sort of a team, you can get quite lost in secondary school, you know?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And I said, what are the things you love? And he had no interest. He was losing his interest in a lot of things because just he was starting to kind of um feel the kind of he was feeling a little bit hopeless because he didn't know what he wanted to do in his college, and he didn't know what, like, we're all supposed to have a direction. He said we're supposed to know in first year like what you want to do, and many points in year you need to get your leaving cert to get what you want, and you have to this linear thing, you know, which is quite a
It's a daunting task for someone that age. And quite frankly, nobody knows what they want at that age. Nobody knows what they want to be, what their direction is. There are some that for some reason have developed this real focus, and it's what they've always wanted to be since they were a child. But generally speaking, you leave school, you're going one direction. You don't necessarily end up finishing,
no,
that path, going down that path. You change directions
all the time.
all the time.
Like,
And I think
I often think of life as like a river. It's the flow of least resistance. You have to go because if you can't pass, well, you have to move. Um, but he was saying, I said, well, what did you love when you were in primary school? He loved reading. He absolutely loved reading. And when he went into secondary school, he was still reading, but his friends made fun of him in first year in secondary school that he was like a nerd because he was reading. And so he stopped reading. And I said, why not just pick up any book, your favorite book that you had before, just pick it up again and read it again.
absolutely.
And he started reading again. And you know what? He found his way again because that was his love, that was his passion. And I think
Yeah,
it's really important that no matter what your passion is, that we honor it, you know, and sometimes these things because you have to find that passion again when you've left school, left college, you have to find it again to find your direction. So sometimes you can get
exactly.
lost along the way.
Exactly.
But he really he really loved reading, and he let it go because he felt, oh.
Because of pressure from
Mhm.
elsewhere.
So
And they are under a lot of pressure. You're talking there a little bit about feeling lost. And I wanted to talk about one of our great Irish authors for young adults and for teens, Sarah Crossan. Now, Sarah Crossan has written so many books. And it started with this one, which I still love. I think it's about 10 years old now. I don't know. Called The Weight of Water
oh
by Sarah Crossan. Beautiful, beautiful book. It's really unique. And it was written as a verse novel.
okay.
And for young people who are finding it difficult to pick up a book, to finish a book, for young people who are finding it hard to get back into reading because they've got so much pressure to do anything else, verse novels are absolutely perfect for that because they are, in essence, a quick read. If the kid has never been into reading before, a verse novel is wonderful. Now, I've had a couple of encounters, particularly with this book, where I always sold to the kids. I always sell to children. What are you interested in? What do you need? What are you doing? I picked this up and handed it to a girl who opened it up and went, oh, it's just one long poem. And she tried to hand it back to me. And what I said to her is, I'll tell you what, I don't make this deal with everybody, but I can see you are really looking for something. So you buy this book, you read it. If you don't love it, you bring it back to me personally. I will buy it off you. I won't take it back into the bookshop. I will personally buy my copy, pay you in full for it. And she took it home and she read it and she came back to me and she said, I loved it.
Ah, that's great.
It's got a beautiful movement. It is about a girl, a Polish girl. Her name is Kasienka, and her mother, and they leave their native land and they emigrate to England in search of their father, who has gone before them, but is now kind of disappeared. And it's about the struggle and it's about the life. She really loves swimming. She discovers someone else who loves swimming. It is full of emotion, and that's the thing about verse novels is, or all poetry. Poetry doesn't necessarily work on the description of the story. It works on the feeling behind it. And there is something, it's unique, it's beautiful. There's something for everyone in this book. So yeah, Sarah Crossan, The Weight of Water, and any book really by Sarah Crossan. Toffee, one about the co-joined twins. Moonrise, which is really interesting. It's about a boy whose brother is on death row in Texas. And We Come Apart, that she wrote with Brian Conahan as well. Anything by Sarah Crossan, you've got a really great read.
Fantastic. So that's, and just to say to people, get these books, look up Sarah Crossan at your local independent bookshop and buy local in this pandemic.
And you can contact them online. They will be able to help you. And Litbox as well. Litbox is a good service on.
Litbox,
so they'll be able to get them for you as well.
Fantastic. And now we're on to something special, something that I like. Well, I love Sarah Crossan. Let's be about that. But
Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow.
Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow.
By Siobhan Curran. Siobhan Curran writes the loveliest books for young people, and they're really accessible. They come across initially as sort of light reads, but there's an awful lot of depth to them. So you're reading along and you're kind of lulled into the feeling that you're reading a light, easy book, but you're really not. Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow is about two teenagers, Stevie, who loves music, and it's what keeps her going. She's a carer for her mother, who suffers from severe depression. She finds herself sinking down that road herself. And then there's Hafiz, who loves football, but he has stopped playing so much since his long journey from Syria. So he is a refugee. And neither one of them have very many friends, but when they meet, they become this unstoppable team that helps each other bind together. And there is kind of a happy ever after for these two friends while they face the problems together. And it is that feeling of friendship, loyalty.
And unity.
You don't have the solution to a problem, maybe someone else does.
Yeah.
And inspiring others to look at the lives of other people and help each other out.
And it's a great read. It is a great read, and there's a lot of inclusivity there. And this is what we're experiencing in life. You know, a boy or a girl who's come from Syria, it's just the trauma of it.
Yes.
And just that situation where the child doesn't want to play football anymore, something that they love, they lose their interest, and
exactly
finding your way back to the things that you love. And it can be difficult, but with the help of somebody.
Yeah, with the support of a good friend.
Yeah.
And a community, because in the end, the community does gather around them as well. It deals with an awful lot, but it's a really joyous book to read. And so I would really recommend that. So Don't Stop Thinking About Tomorrow by Siobhan Curran.
And again, get your book in your local independent bookshop, guys. Buy local, support your local independent bookshops.
Absolutely. And I think I am going to make a plea for everyone to read this fantastic book On Midnight Beach by Marie Louise Fitzpatrick. She is on the long list for the Carnegie Award for this book. It
Fantastic.
is sort of historical fiction, but not that far in history. And it takes place in 1976 when up in Donegal in, what's the name of the place, Ross Bay, a dolphin appears. It's been the hottest summer ever, ever, ever. All the businesses in this little town are just going down, really down. Nobody wants to go there on holidays. Nobody wants to do anything. This dolphin appears, and all of a sudden there's an influx of tourism. But it is also about coming of age, becoming who you are. Emer sits down at midnight to swim with this dolphin when there's nobody else. There she meets this boy, Dog Cullen, who everybody knows you stay away from him. But of course, the perception of him is not necessarily the reality of the situation. And together, they kind of work out directions in life, even when it doesn't work out quite so well. It's also sort of a contemporary rewriting of Anton. And just incredible, compelling. I was about 3/4 of the way through this before I realized what I was actually reading was Irish myth, but set in a contemporary tale. So in that way, it also talks about who we are as a people and what kind of.
That's a wonderful book. I want to read that now myself.
It's an incredible book.
On Midnight Beach.
On Midnight Beach by Marie-Louise Fitzpatrick.
Definitely a one to read. And again, it's a case of buy from your independent bookshop, your local independent bookshop. Support the book and support your Irish community. Or wherever you are in the world watching this.
They need your support.
Yes.
I have a couple of others if you want me to very quickly.
Let's have a couple of others.
Have a couple of others. This is Dad's Red Dress by L.J. Sedgwick. And as you might infer, it's about having a father who is a crossdresser. Okay. Jessie just wants her family to be normal. She's a young teenage girl. She just wants a normal family. That's all she wants in the world. But her dad is a crossdresser. Her stepmom is a very contemporary artist who deals with women's body issues. And her little sister thinks she was abducted by the Virgin Mary.
Oh my goodness.
So there's a lot of wild and wonderful things going on here. And it is about coming to terms with who you really are, but also coming to terms with who the people you love really are. And it puts you in the position of everybody coming to the conclusion in this book that it's not all about me. And it's how you build a family.
That's a nice sentiment.
It's wonderful. The sequel will be out hopefully sometime this year. I'll have to talk to Lindsay and see when the actual publication date is. But it is heartfelt. It is impactful. I mean, it takes place at a time in Ireland where, they moved from California, where at the time in Ireland that it takes place, there's not all the forward thinking that there was. So you got dad's a crossdresser, there's some, and the social welfare system is really concerned about these children.
Okay.
But within all of that, within all the problems, within all the social issues, there is heart, there is humor, there is love. It's really joyous. It's really wonderful. So I would solely recommend, or heartily recommend, Dad's Red Dress for everybody. You'll have a good laugh as well. And it does have its laugh out loud moments.
And again, that is to be purchased at your local independent bookshop. Please support your local shops.
Yes,
we might leave it there, Mary, for today.
I think we will leave it there.
I thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to talk to us.
No problem.
And I am delighted to know that people have this facility where they can tap in, watch this clip, see what's out there, what's really good for their teenagers, young adults, And as with all our series, from the really young all the way up to teenagers and young adults. So thanks very much, Mary, for being part of
No
this.
problem. No
Supported
problem.
so many people who are pulling out their hair, trying to think, what will I get?
What will we do? Yes.
Yeah. So
And the
thank
other thing I'd like
you.
to say is, particularly those kids going into exams or
Mm,
studying for exams, give them the time to read just for pleasure.
mm,
Because two things happen there. One is that it actually does allow them to de-stress.
mm.
They're reading for something that has nothing to do, that's putting any pressure on them. It's just for their own joy. The other thing that happens is it actually does help with the exams, with the studying, because it helps them to think in a different way and get solutions in a different way that they can then put on paper for
So
their
just
marks.
on that note, just because I know we're about to go, but just on that note, because people say, I don't have time to read a book. I don't have the teenager, an adult will say, I don't have time to read a book. A teenager would say, I don't have time to read a book. I may have exams.
Mhm.
Adults say, I'm busy with working, I'm busy rearing my children, I'm busy, busy, busy. We make ourselves very busy. And then a parent could also say, I don't have the time or the energy to read to my child. What do you say in that situation? Like, there is a need. I think there's a need for
Oh,
reading.
an absolute need. It's
So
so
what would you
important.
say for people who turn around to you and say, I don't have time for this. I don't have fantasy, sci-fi, fiction. I don't have time for this. I'm in the real.
Ah, but the thing is that you'd be surprised how much time you actually have. We spend a lot of time in our busyness
Yeah.
filling moments with things that don't actually need to be done right now. In terms of not having time to read with your children, make the time.
And that is the case. You just have to make
15, 20 minutes a night makes all the difference, not just in their education, in their ability to read themselves, in the relationship.
yeah.
If you take the time to stop and relate to them in that way, where it's nothing other than let's read a story, the bond, the closeness is there. It's so very important. As they get older now, I think I've said before, I read to my children up into their teenage years. But 20 minutes a night of reading is nothing.
Mm.
20 minutes
You
in
know,
a
people spend
day
20
is
minutes on their
nothing.
mobile phones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Put the phone down. We're going to read now. And the best way to build that, I think, is let your children see you do it.
Mm. Yeah.
You put your phone aside, you put all the other stuff aside. You sit down, you pick a book, you read.
I have
If
to
they
say,
see you
yeah,
doing it,
that is the thing. I remember myself as a child, my father is an avid reader. And when you'd see him in the corner of the sitting room reading, you'd be more likely to pick up something and read.
it's just what we do.
Yeah.
That's the way we take it. They always take their cues from the adults in the room.
Yeah.
So if you take that time to sit down and read, then they're going, yeah, that's what we do. So they will take the time to sit down and read.
Thanks
And
very much, Mary, for being here. Thank you so
no
much.
problem.
And
No,
we hope to talk to you again on a future date. So
I
until
hope
then,
so.
happy Irish Reads Day.
Happy Ireland read. Squeeze and a read, guys.
All right. Thank you, Mary.